I was a terrible kid. It was the end of the world. This was my life.
That's so dangerous.
I was so addicted.
Explain Dream to me.
He's a gamer who's hid his face. There must be a reason.
Is there a moment when lots of money starts coming in?
Yes.
Holy shit. In 1 month? Oh my God, dude.
And then I edited in a way where I cut things in almost like a misleading way.
How strategic of a marketer are you? Do you regret the face reveal? It's hard to spend time on YouTube and not hear Dream's name or see his iconic smiley face. He has over 30 million subscribers, and some of his videos have upwards of 100 million views. Now, he grew through telling stories on Minecraft, playing the game live, and then editing those videos into cinematic stories. While he was getting incredibly famous, he also remained incredibly mysterious. He never showed his face until 2022, when he decided to do a face reveal. Now, this was a moment that took over the internet. Over 40 million people watched as he revealed his face for the first time. 6 months into 2023, Dream announced that he's putting the mask back on, which obviously made Colin and I incredibly curious. He's also embarking into a career in music and is recently signed to Republic Records, which is a record label that also represents the Jonas Brothers, Ariana Grande, and Bo Burnham. We talked to him about his origin story and dive deep into his childhood to get an understanding of how he became one of the biggest creators of our generation. And as you'll see in the interview, one of the best marketing minds on the internet.
This is going to be interesting for us because this is the first time that we've interviewed someone where we can't see their facial expressions.
There you go. Well, my eyes are here.
Okay, good to know.
Right in the middle of the eyes, that's where I am.
So, we saw you at VidCon. I don't know if you clocked this experience at all. We were in the elevator with you.
Really?
Yeah, It was just the three of us in the elevator.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
He was with security.
He was never alone.
No, but you were with security.
Okay.
And you walk out, and Colin looks at me, and I look at Colin, and we were like, that wasn't Dream. Like, there's no way that was Dream. And then Colin goes, yeah, someone's making a video. Like, I snuck into VidCon as Dream. Real cool. And then,
also, like, I've never seen you in person.
Yeah.
And you walked out, and like your back was big.
Yeah, you're like a big dude.
You're a little more muscular, and I was just like, damn, like, if that is Dream, he's kind of like jacked.
I think a little bit of the padding. I don't know.
Or I guess just bigger than us.
Yeah. Taller and bigger than us. But what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's actually funny. So you guys probably don't know this, and he probably didn't reveal it because he wouldn't. But you actually met my brother.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and no one, you can't tell anybody who it is.
Okay.
But yeah, he's the one who set this up.
Yeah.
He texted me and he was like, I just met Colin and Samir. And I told them I knew you and could set up an interview. I was like, let's do it. That's sweet.
Sick.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, this kind of came together really quickly. But I'm really excited that it came together. Like, super interested in just everything that's going on with you. Obviously, like, the place to start is the fact that you're wearing a mask right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good place.
You're sitting in front of us wearing the mask. You've decided to put the mask back on. You released a video called Buy from Dream, which shows that you're putting the mask back on, comes with you releasing new music. Like, what's going on in the world of Dream right now?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I did my face reveal. I mean, I guess you can't tell now, but I did my face reveal in October of last year. And the whole time, obviously, the mask has been a massive part of like everything I've done. And I never actually planned to not show my face. Like, I just started as a faceless creator because of the fact that I never really showed my face online. I don't know. There's probably a ton of reasons for that, but I just never really had. And I didn't have social media, actually. I didn't have a Twitter. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I had like nothing before I started YouTube. And so I just happened to not really have many pictures of me on any of my, or no pictures of me on any of my stuff. And then fans took that and were like, oh my God, he's like faceless. And they started drawing fan art of me in a mask. And then I got sent a mask to my PO box. And I was like, that's so sick. So it really was like made by the fans, I guess. And I never wanted to lose that because to me, the mask became the meaning behind like anyone can be Dream. Like anyone can succeed and can do anything they want. And because of the fact that no one knew what I looked like or kind of like who I was. And that was something that I was like, you could look up to that kind of like, I saw a quote from Stan Lee about Spider-Man a long time ago that was very similar. I don't want to compare myself to a superhero. I'm superhero Dream, but like it was inspiring in that he said like he wanted Spider-Man covered from head to toe. Because he wanted anyone, no matter their race or religion or wherever they're from, to be able to be like, I could be Spider-Man. And so I kind of related to that, and that I always wore gloves in all my photos, and I always did everything like as it became more of a part of kind of my image as Dream, to kind of have that of like you can be Dream and anyone can be Dream and do what they want. And then I did the face reveal and this specialty mask that was made by an awesome company that did like a lot of the superhero masks.
And
was
Daft Punk too, right?
Yeah, Daft Punk
Daft
and like
Punk.
they did Marshmallow. They did a bunch of outside of superheroes as well.
Yeah.
Basically, they do like all the awesome masks. They were working on it, and we were kind of going back and forth for a really long time. And I always planned on keeping the mask and wearing it, not wearing it all the time, but wearing it and making sure that when I was Dream, I really envisioned that. I really kept that image and that meaning behind it, because I feel like that's such an inspiring message to kids and to everyone that watches Dream and kind of knows who I am, and inspires you to always smile and kind of all those things behind it. And then it took a lot longer to kind of have it made. And so after a long period of time, I was like, oh God, now it's weird if I just start wearing it randomly, like to certain events and whatever. And so I was like, how can I actually give a reason, within like the Dream lore and the reason behind everything, as to, actually make it make sense why I'm introducing it again, and why it is a part of who I am, and this is why it is. And so I thought, what's kind of a bigger news than deleting the face reveal and being like, hey, I'm putting the mask back on to solidify that.
So is it more about the brand of Dream than it is about what it was like personally, not having the mask, dealing with fame?
Oh, I mean, it's much more about the meaning behind the mask. I mean, obviously that goes into the branding and stuff, but it's so much more about what the mask means to me and how it felt when I was wearing it before, and what I thought in terms of the inspiration for other people. And obviously I saw a lot of people, obviously there was a lot of stuff whenever I did the face reveal with like Dream was ugly was trending and other stuff.
Yeah.
But I've talked about that and stuff before and been like, yeah, but okay, it had 6,000 tweets or whatever, and the video had 50 million views, and it had, there's so many positive comments, and I've never gotten more support whenever that happened as well. And so I think that I have a very like healthy relationship with what I look like, and being like, hey, I'm happy with how I look. And I don't, I kind of, the image I've always wanted to spread is like, that you should just be yourself and not care. And so that I think it goes a little bit against that to be like, no guys, I'm ugly, so I'm hiding my face. Like, that was obviously, if you watch my video I did on it, the Buy From Dream video, it's satire. I mean, you can tell if you're watching. It's my friend, my roommate's bursting and going, "You're ugly. Put the mask back on. Like you need to cover that face. Whatever."
Yeah.
But surprisingly, that video spread like wildfire. But not the actual video itself, but like the headline, because the headline is so catchy of like, Dream gets hate and deletes face reveal. Sometimes it just works out where you have something like that pops up and you're like, perfect.
That's something that I've been curious about you for a while, of like, is it just that things kind of fall into place, or how strategic of like a marketer are you? Because like your face reveal was one of the best internet campaigns I've ever seen. Like people reacting to your face prior to it.
Yeah.
And there was part of me that was trying to understand, like, is this, the face reveal specifically, is this a guy who really just wants to live life and, be unrestricted by this concept of wearing a mask, be able to hang out with his friends, go out in public, make IRL content? Or is this really one of the sharpest marketing campaigns I've ever seen? And or is it a mix?
Yeah, so I think the completely like honest answer is that it's almost always a mix. Like I feel like I've always really lived by the quote that the best type of marketing is marketing that doesn't feel like marketing.
Yeah.
And so because I've always like lived by that and been like, that is my thing. If there's ever an opportunity where I go, I see something, even if it's like a last minute thing that wasn't a part of the plan, but I can make it seem like it's somehow connected or whatever, then I'll always jump at that, because I go, that it feels the most natural, because it is the most natural, because it is something I didn't plan, or it is something I didn't, whatever. It's like, I wasn't going, oh, I'm going, when I face reveal, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have these reaction videos. But what happened was I did the first one with George, because I always promised him, hey, I'll show you my face as soon as your visa's approved. And so he texted me, he said, my visa's approved. I'm able to come, because he was going to move to America with me. So I was like, oh, awesome. I'll show you my face as soon as he hasn't seen my face. He was one of my best friends for like 10 years. He had never seen my face.
That's a wild thing.
He was always asking for like the first like 5 years. And then the next like 5 years, he was saying like, I was like, do you want to see? And I was willing to show him, because some of my other friends had seen. And he was like, no, at this point, I don't want to be spoiled. Like, I'd rather just wait until the big moment and see it myself. And so he got his visa approved. He texted me. I FaceTimed him, and seeing his reaction and like how he reacted and everything really made me realize like, wow, even to me, who knows what I look like, it was just kind of so intriguing I didn't know how he was going to react. I was like, you're just seeing your friend. Like, how do you react? It's just a guy that you've known for 10 years, you've never seen.
Yeah.
And to me, seeing his face, seeing what he said, seeing the way he described me, seeing that really made it interesting to me. And I was like, wow, I feel like that probably is just as interesting to everyone else. And so I was like, I want to do that for everyone. And so I started reaching out to my friends. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, why just my friends? I trust Mark Rober to not, he's not going to tweet out my face or something.
Yeah.
There were certain creators that reached out that I was like, I could see them maybe being I got Dream and doing like a prank or something. So I was like, I'll wait.
Yeah.
But I also FaceTime just out of interest, like people off camera, like Mr. Beast. I FaceTimed him before I did the face reveal, completely off camera, and a couple of more of my friends that never even posted it or anything.
Yeah.
And it really was.
But that took over, and it was also for creators like us. There was an element of FOMO for us to be like, damn, we didn't get the Dream call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like that's the thing where people also, there's a couple creators that like I didn't really have anything to do with, that took risks, that just tweeted like, yo, Dream. And I was like, sure, you know what? Fine.
Marquez Brownlee was the one for me where I was like, oh wow, he's really like spanning beyond kind of his niche and going into like big creators. Like
I don't remember how that happened. I think I was just scrolling through my following and I saw him and I was like, that's sick. I love Mark. He seems like a good stand-up guy.
I'll show him my face. Why not?
Yeah. And then that was fun. And his reaction was so funny because like he didn't have any expectations. I'm sure he was just like, sure, I'll see it. And he was like, oh, okay, there you go. Cool.
But the pushback a little bit for me reminded me as a creator, the first time you have a video that goes viral and goes outside of your own audience and you start checking the comments and they start getting a little bit negative and you're like, wait a minute. This is not my actual audience. You know, like if you do a face reveal to just the core audience, it's probably majority positive. You turned it into such a cultural moment that it like trended on Twitter and everyone got to weigh in, even if it was the first time that they've heard about you.
Take us into that moment of like the actual face reveal video, because I'm in the world, but I was getting texts from people, you know, my sister-in-law who's not in this world at all was like, explain Dream to me that night.
I mean, I had like 1 million people were waiting for the premiere.
That was crazy.
It was like 10 minutes before the premiere. There was 1 million people waiting. I was like, oh my God, like I've done like massive streams that had massive viewership that were not even close to that. And they're waiting. They're not even like, the video's not even playing. They're just like, oh, it's about to happen. And I think that, I mean, it really did. Like that was the biggest reason I see criticism all the time for people being like, well, yeah, obviously people are going to say he was ugly or whatever, or one way or the other, because he hyped it up so much and he's just a normal looking guy or whatever. I was like, I wasn't trying to hype it up. I was trying to hype up the moment. I wasn't trying to hype me up and be like, guys, look, I'm so like,
get ready for this face.
Get ready for how hot.
Get ready for me, man. I've been putting in these gains behind this mask for so long. Like,
I actually thought you were, I don't know what this says about me or society, but I thought you were better looking than I anticipated when you face revealed.
I mean, I think that, you know? I'm sure there's a lot of people on both ends of the spectrum. There was a lot of fans of mine, I'm sure, that thought I was more attractive than I was. There was a lot of fans of mine that probably thought, oh man, he's a gamer who's hit his face. There must be a reason. Like I had people, like actual close friends of mine, that said something along those lines to me afterwards. They're like, man, like, I mean, I don't want to say I thought you were ugly, but like I always assumed that, hey, you're probably uncomfortable with how you look. You're going to be awkward, or you're going to be, you know, whatever because of that. And they were, even some of my close friends were surprised, being like, oh, you're just a normal guy. Yeah. And I think that did, the fact that it was hyped up so much did really create that hatred, I guess. And that like, what the hell? Why is he getting attention?
Why'd you hype this so
why
much?
is his face so popular? He's, you know, he's just a normal guy.
But what does it feel like to, like, the day after, I think it had 40 million views, right?
Honestly, I don't remember. I know it was like 25 million views, I think, in 24 hours or something.
So by the end of the week, it had over 40 million views, right? I remember looking at that and thinking like, what does that feel like? That 40 million people were interested in that.
It felt, to me, it really felt like, it was this, I cried tears of joy afterwards for sure. And it was really because like, I put so much effort into not making sure I had that moment. And the fact that, you said the whole thing about, you know, marketing. Yeah. Not even necessarily marketing, but just the fact that I had this plan of, hey, I want to reveal my face on my own time. I want this to be a big moment, because I like put stuff up in my windows. I went out in the back of a car whenever I left my house. I went to the dentist in another state because people knew I lived in the Orlando area. So like, I was like, I am not having this moment taken from me. And so the fact that it ended up being as big of a moment as it was, really actually, if it had, let's say, got 1 million views, I would have been just as happy, like, oh, I get to go see my friends. But I would have been like, damn, did I really just spend a year and a half like, you know, hiding like I'm some like fugitive or something just for that? So like, I think that if you believe in something and you want to do it, you know, do it your own way and don't let anyone tell you how to do it.
So for someone who maybe is not familiar with your work, or why 40 million people the day after would be interested in what your face looks like, how do you explain what the core essence is of your work? Like, what makes your videos, your art impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do so much different stuff, but I guess in my mind, it's kind of under it all kind of has one central theme, and that I love to entertain people. Obviously, my biggest thing was through storytelling. I love storytelling. I grew up wanting to be an author. I wrote 2 75,000 book word novels when I was like 16. And that was my dream job. I was like, I'm going to be an author. Obviously, there was a long period of my life as well, even throughout that time where I was like, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I posted tons of YouTube videos, but everyone wanted to be a YouTuber. Not necessarily everyone wanted to be an author. And so I like to say that was kind of
what were those books about?
They were young adult, like dystopian books. So it was very much like I read a lot of like young adult dystopian. So like Hunger Games and stuff like Divergent and Percy Jackson and the Olympians and Alex Rider, Max. There's so many that I read when I was a kid. I used to read 100 books a year from when I was like 14 to 18. And there was a couple of years there where I read almost a book every other day. And that was like my passion. I was tanking in my school because I would just be in math class reading or writing in my journals or whatever. But so I guess the best way to describe what I do in terms of like, if I'm trying to be accurate and not just talk about necessarily the meaning behind it is just, I try and entertain people, make people happy. And I do that, through many different ways. One of them is obviously, Minecraft videos. I've played Minecraft since I was a kid and it makes me happy. So I try and share those moments. The people that are in my videos on YouTube, I've known since I was 10 and 11 and 12. And we were friends long before we did YouTube and just decided to do YouTube together. We all had no subscribers when we started together. And now we all have, a lot. So we really did just, capture those moments and put them out there while also applying, strategy and marketing and these things to make sure that most people can see it. And in my mind, I've always had that vision of like, I want to have the biggest impact I can on the world, like while I'm here. And so I think that, marketing and strategy and all those things are just the vessel to do that with my content. And so it's not forming the content around the marketing, it's forming the marketing around the content that I want to put out. And so I think that includes sometimes writing with writing music, with writing like shows and stuff. Cause I've done stuff for like the Dream SMP on Twitch. I'm gonna get lost a little bit.
We'll get into that. Yeah. We'll take you through some of that.
That's also very much storytelling. And then obviously my videos, one of my first videos was like a storytelling story about like PewDiePie's Minecraft world and his seed. And I did like unsolved mysteries in Minecraft. And then that kind of shifted into Manhunt, my biggest series, which at the end of the day, when you break it down is a story. I mean, you can watch it like an anime, which is why it has so many views and so many people that are into it. Because you can watch it and go, that's a tree, that's a Minecraft character. And you're following who people are and what they're saying and what they're doing. And it's less about the game and more about the story and the emotion.
You took one of the like most popular canvases, Minecraft, and you applied your deep knowledge of storytelling from reading and understanding story to that. At least that's my vantage point on it. It's like, I can see that you did something different. You were like, hey, this is a canvas that like hundreds of millions of people understand. I'm going to apply storytelling to it.
Yeah, and I genuinely love Minecraft, and I'll always speak the praise of Minecraft as a game itself. It's just a sandbox, and they have done such a good job of just being like, hey, do what you want with it, mod it, do whatever, make money off of it. Like my first job was Minecraft. Like I was making money from, coding Minecraft stuff. And that's one and I met most of my friends on Minecraft servers that were just run by independent businesses. And I think that Minecraft and Mojang have done like such an amazing job of making the game, not only like fun to play cause it's a good game, but really just like a game where they were like, hey, this is a community game. We're going to do what you guys want. We're going to make it so you can do whatever you want. And I think that's why I've been able to play it for so long without being like, hey, I'm bored of this game now because it's been, a year or whatever, like I've done with a lot of games I've played.
I'm curious though, like thinking about reading 100 books a year, like makes me think about who were you as a kid? Like who were you in high school? Cause like that's a very specific thing to do, read like a book every other day.
Yeah, I feel like I was a book nerd for sure. I was not I hated school. I despised school. I was like, what's the point of school? I don't even want to do any of the stuff I'm learning. You're teaching me all this stuff about stuff that I don't care about. I want to do my own thing. And so in high school, I mean, I was only in physical high school for less than a year. And then I actually was in this big battle with my parents over like, I want to go into online school. These electives that they have at this school, I want to go into technology and they have no like tech electives. And so I went in this big battle to where eventually I don't recommend it. And I look back and go, man, I did some stupid stuff when I was a kid. But I was like, all right, you guys aren't putting me in online school. I'm not going to school then. And I just stopped going to school. I actually got arrested for truancy for not going to school.
What is truancy?
Truancy is you don't go to school for an extended period of time, and then it's illegal because you if you're a kid, you're under 16.
No way.
You get arrested for not going to school?
You can.
Whoa.
And then I got charged with resisting arrest because I was not. The cop came to the back door and was like, you need to go to school. And I was like, the door's locked. You're not coming in. Like, not that, but like essentially,
yeah,
it was
wow.
like, I'm not opening the door.
So did the school call the cops or did your parents call the
My parents did.
called the cops?
My parents did, and
they've
talked so many times since then. It's so I've never told this story, which is so interesting, but they've said so many times since then, like, we regret calling the cops, not because it was not the right thing to do, because the cops, like, you're charging a 16-year or 15, I was 15, a 15-year-old kid with like resisting arrest for not opening a door to you. Like, that could have, obviously, because of the fact I was so young and because I was able to just be like, take guidance from my parents and stuff, it was expunged and nothing ever came of it. But like, that could have ruined my life. That could have affected me not getting jobs and all this stuff. And I maybe I would have deserved it a little bit, but I was just an idiot kid doing idiot kid stuff. But yeah, I feel like some of my, I've said this, I think some of my creativity actually probably unfortunately spawns from the fact that there was this like ongoing battle between me and my parents for so long where it was like, they would not give in and I would not give in to like what I wanted to do. And so it was like, they would take away the computer, but then how do I get on the computer? How do I get on the internet? How do I do these things without them knowing? And it became this battle where like, there was one point where like I had like makes me sound like I was a terrible kid. I was like, for my parents, I was the worst kid ever. Okay. To other people, I was very nice. I was respectful, whatever. But like I had a wire from my neighbor's plug run to my window, down under and like around in my closet so that my parents like wouldn't see it, to be able to charge my laptop that I slept under my pillow. That way they could not take it away from me. If that helps in tell you what type of kid I was like a kind of like a little devious like kid who I was so strong on like and confident in what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And I would never take, I would never take like, no, you can't do what you want. You got
creative to make that stuff happen. Were you the younger sibling or?
I have 3 siblings. I have an older sister, a younger brother and a younger sister. And so I'm a middle child.
You're right in the middle. Okay.
I'm curious where friends come into the picture here. Because when I think about reading 100 books a year, or fighting for access to the internet like that, to be on it. All of those to me seem like solitary pursuits.
I didn't have many friends. And I think that's one of the reasons as well I was able to keep my face reveal like private for so long, is because I had 2 really close friends when I was growing up. They were my 2 next door neighbors, and then we moved, and I hardly saw them ever again, even though I'm still friends with them to this day. But I had like those 2 guys, and then I had when we moved to another neighborhood. I had one guy there that he ended up moving away at some point. But almost all my friends that I have now in my life are online friends and people that I met online. But in terms of real life, I had my next door neighbors when I was like in middle school, and then in high school, I really isolated myself. I went through like a massive depression when I was like 15, and it was very much self-caused by me isolating myself and not, feeling like I just felt like I couldn't. I really wanted to be an author. I really wanted to go into tech, and I felt like neither of those were going to happen. And so it made me really, really upset.
Sad. Yeah.
And so I was in this battle where I was like suicidal, and I was like telling my parents, like, if I can't do this, like, but I want to die. I don't want to go work a normal job, whatever. I want to do what I want to do. And so eventually, luckily, I kind of grew up a little bit and realized like, well, you have to make it happen. And it's not, these are the confines. This is what you're working with. You have to go to school. You have to get a job. You have to, do these things. And eventually, once I came to terms with that, I was able to be like, hey, yeah, I kind of have to be an adult and be reasonable and realize that everyone else has the same rules. You work within the rules of the world, and then you do what you can. And so, I worked my ass off. I did online schooling. I actually ended up graduating early, and I had a bunch of tech certifications because I abused the heck out of a program in Florida that it's called FLVS. It's like a Florida virtual school where they allow you to get like free tech certifications. And I did all of that and got like certified in a crap ton of different stuff when I was like 17.
What skills are you learning when you're taking these tech certifications?
Like I did a lot of like networking. There were some of them were based on like Windows and then hardware and software.
Got it.
Certifications. There was I know a couple. I know I got like Networking Plus certification. At the same time, I was teaching myself Java, which is a programming language, which that's the only thing I don't have a certification in, and that's the one thing I actually know how to do. It's still and can code cool stuff. But that one was that I guess the reason I know that one is because I actually was passionate about that. And I only learned because I had the idea for a Minecraft server. I went to my friend who ran one, and it was a business. And he's like, this is how much it would cost. And I was like, well, I don't have that much money. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. My dad's a developer. If he can do it, it's probably in my genes. I can do it too. And so I went and watched YouTube tutorials and stuff, and then started coding stuff myself. And that became my thing, which actually got one of my YouTube videos. I use that a lot. So
that's interesting that your dad's a developer. So that was around you when you were growing up.
Yeah, no, my dad's was a massive tech guy. Even my grandpa was like, I don't want to say friends, but he worked with like Steve Jobs and stuff.
Interesting.
On like, and he worked on like one of the first computers ever made. And so I had the men in my family had a big tech background. And so I always really did look up to like technology. I've always been really into technology, but it's interesting enough, even though everyone when I got asked as a kid, like, oh, at least not as a kid, when I was 17, 18, oh, what are you going to do as your job? It was always something tech related. But in the back of my mind, it's like, that's not what I want to do. But I never say that. I just be like, yeah, I'm going to be a developer. I'm going to be this or that.
Super interesting.
That was like an answer that everyone would accept. It's like part of your family.
But I would tell my family, I'd be like, no, I'm doing this. I'm going to end up making this work or whatever. And then, I mean, the story, I don't know if we want to get into it right now, but the story of how I started my YouTube channel
let's get into it.
Is actually very interesting, I guess. And I think it's very showing of the same thing with like the dedication behind the face reveal and stuff. Like I got a job working at Apple, and that was, again, I used a lot of my certifications and stuff when I was 18.
You worked at Apple?
I worked at Apple. So Apple Care. So it was
okay, got it.
But it was at Apple, and I was
still Apple. Yeah.
And I was I actually was the highest level of support at Apple Care. So essentially, I had like a phone number that you could call, like important clients and stuff could call to get the problems that, like, if you went through 10 people and they couldn't solve it, then it would get to me.
Oh, interesting.
And again, I actually learned a lot of stuff there that played into YouTube. Like I learned how people think, like, because one thing they taught at Apple was, and I went through it was like a 3-month training before I even got the job. And it was like one thing that they taught strongly was like, you're not just fixing a problem, you're fixing a person. Like the person, their problem might not just be the problem. They might have a problem with the last 10 people they talked to. They might have a problem with, they might have a problem with just the day they're having. They might have a problem that they don't even realize they have that you can help them fix while you're on the phone with them there.
That's so Apple.
It is so Apple. And I will still say, I think Apple support is one of the best support systems I've ever seen. And working on the inside, even so, I'd be like, yeah, it was amazing and great.
Interesting.
And so I got better and better at it over time and learning how people think. And I definitely used that when I started YouTube, but so that was when I was 18. I was working at Apple. I saved up about $20,000 from working there for almost a year. And then I was like, I went to my parents and I was like, I'm going to do YouTube. So I'm going to quit my job. And I had not posted a single YouTube video. I was like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do YouTube. My parents were like, no, you don't do that. What,
call
you
the cops.
Job?
Get the cops back here. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're like, eventually they're like, okay, but if you do, you run out of money, you're not coming back with us. Just so you know, you're not going to. Now, realistically, they would have taken me back. They would have. Yeah. But I didn't think that at the time, of course. And I was like, oh God, this is all or nothing. And so I came up with I was like, I need a plan. If this is going to be my job, I need to treat it like a job. I need to actually have a strategy. I need to have a plan. I need to know what I'm doing. And so I quit my job, and then I was doing, for like 6 months, because I quit in January. And then there was 6 months until I uploaded my first video, which was in June or July of 2019. And so I quit my job in January, and I was like, okay, I'm coming with a plan. And while I was doing that, I was doing like little side Minecraft projects for coding. I actually worked for some other like YouTubers that were, I did videos on their channel where I coded stuff for them. Which ended up playing a big part into, I learned some stuff during that period while also just literally studying. I used to say I've read tons of information about it, like hundreds of books worth. Everyone's like, what books? I'm like, well, not actually books. I read I would watch YouTube videos. I would look at what's working from people, and I would just really just overanalyze everything. Like I would listen to the intro 100 times, like what makes this intro better than something? What makes Mr. Beast's intro better than everyone else? I'm going to go through it. I'll notice things in descriptions and be like, that one's, he's doing something interesting. He doesn't, like, as an example, this is an example I'm free to give out. I was like, oh, like Mr. Beast, like I don't know if he does it now, but at the time he didn't link anything in the description. When he put his social media, he'd put like social media and then at whatever and didn't have a link. And I was like, that's interesting. Why does he do that? Is there a reason why it'd be good? And so I was like analyzing, and I was like, oh, well, maybe, I don't even know if this is true, but I was like, maybe if you make it not a link, then people are less likely to, like, during the video, click off and like mess with the retention. Cause like they click the link and then they leave the video and they come back and you just have 2 views that for like the less retention. And so there's probably 1,000 different things like that I found, like little tiny small things that really add up, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Some of them are probably a little superstitious, and then it's like, oh, like, does it really make that big of a difference? Like, at the end of the day, you have to make good content. Yeah. And that's something I learned as well. I was like, well, at the end of the day, I have to actually make high quality, good content. But if I follow all these tricks and tips, then I can. And then I eventually got to the point where I was confident enough to go into it. I remember I was in a CC's Pizza parking lot with my sister. And she's like, so what are you doing now? You're not at Apple. I'm like, well, starting soon, I'm uploading a video. I'm going to be a massive YouTuber. And she's like, no, you're not. And I was like, no, I am. She's like, you've told me this before. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't actually mean it before. I mean it now. And I'm going to, I promise you. And I actually was running out of money in my savings. I had no money left in my savings and my rent was due in the next week. And YouTube, they send you a little slip. They have to send to your address to get your first paycheck.
It's the worst. Yeah. The PIN.
And they sent it to the wrong address.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't able to confirm to get my payment. And so I was like, I ended up calling my friend Bad Boy Halo, who's another YouTuber of mine. And I was like, hey man, I'm too embarrassed to call my parents. I don't want to ask my parents for money. If I need money, I don't know if I will, because I could get the slip in time. Will you lend me money? I promise you, look, I have this, YouTube owes me, $5,000 or whatever it was. Will you lend me money? He was like, yeah, man. And that made me feel a lot better, not like freak out about what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But then I got the slip in time and I got my first paycheck literally that week. And I think back with this crazy thing of like, when you say, is it planned? Like if my first video had not blown up as much as it did, and that was delayed by 1 month, I probably would have just gone back to Apple and been like, hey, I was a good employee, take me back. And I would have started the cycle maybe of just saving up and then being like, I really want to do this thing, quitting. And
interesting. Okay, so I want to go back a little bit in time to something you said.
I ramble a little bit.
Yeah, it's all good. The pursuit of YouTube is always interesting to me because like I was just having a conversation with my mom about it this morning. This kind of like, at least for me, this like desire for validation and for other people to like even quantifiable validation where there's like numbers next to it, right? And I think back to what you were just mentioning of like you shared with us, you went through a bout of depression and there's a line in one of your songs, which is a song I really like, Mask, that Colin and I wrote down, which I thought was really interesting. It says, the fact is, I can never get off my mattress. All they ask is, why are you so sad, kid? That's what the mask is. That's the whole point. That's what the whole point of the mask is. You talk about how
the best lyricism in history, folks.
Dude, it's pretty good. Honestly, I thought like we wrote that down because we were like, that's pretty good lyrics.
I think that a lot of people make fun of a lot of the lyrics from some of my old music. Sure. And I think everyone that's an art looks back on their old stuff and cringes. So I look back at that and go, cringy. I know what I was trying to say, but I know how maybe I'd say it differently now.
Yeah, sure.
Which is so funny. I think I do that with videos, with writing, everything. You look back and go, that old video, man, I was so bad.
But I'm just curious if like the desire to do YouTube, to put yourself out there and have feedback and get some level of like, notoriety or validation, did that come as a response to your upbringing or like, feeling sad or maybe not having as many friends? Like
I definitely didn't go into YouTube for validation per se.
Sure, yeah.
But I definitely with writing, I relate a lot more with writing, but also with like YouTube and gaming in general. I feel like gaming and writing in the same way are an escape. Like I feel like you're in a different, when you're writing, you're creating your own world. You're in your own world. It's different, has different rules. It's whatever you want it to be. And in gaming, it's the same way. Yeah. If you're playing Minecraft, you're playing whatever. It's your own thing. You can do whatever you want, talk to whoever you want. You can choose the characters. If I want my neighbor to be different, and if I'm online, I have an online friend. I can not talk to that person and ignore them. They're not my neighbor. I can change my neighbor and make it someone new. And so I feel like I looked at gaming and also writing in the same way as this escape from like sadness, reality. I guess. And so when I was going through depression, definitely my biggest escape was writing and gaming. And when I was like 16 and 17, those were probably my two worst, most depressed years, I'd say. Maybe 15 in there. I lose track of the timeline sometimes. Yeah. But and during those years, I was the most creative I'd ever been. Probably even since then. Like I literally, during those 2 years, I wrote 2 75,000 word novels. I coded two massive Minecraft networks. One of them is still up to this day and has players on it. I don't have anything to do with it anymore. I don't do anything on it. But I literally was every day just putting creativity out into the world because that was what made me feel validated. Like
and in control, probably.
And in control of my own stuff. I coded something. I want to have this. I want to do this. Play this game today. I'm going to code this game, and I'm going to have fun with that, and I'm going to be happy about that because that's what it was. And so that's why, whenever I say, I was this bratty, I was such a bad kid, and I did all these stupid things to try and get the internet. But to me, it was like it was the end of the world. You took away the internet from me. This was like this was my life. This was my escape from my sadness. You're just plunging me into the sad. And I was hating my parents, and I had such a bad relationship with my mom and my dad, and especially my dad back then. We were into it, and we were at each other's throats all the time. He was. You were looking back on it. It was mostly me at his throat, and him just being like, "Stop being such an idiot." Like not that, but
Sure.
And so yeah, but I feel like that's why it really was such a thing. It was like you're ripping my like heart out. You're ripping this thing, and it is an addiction as well. Like just to go back and admit that, like I was so addicted. You can get addicted to almost anything, obviously, not just drugs or whatever. But I feel like with I was addicted, but luckily it ended up the fact that I spent all that time doing all those things that improved my life massively. So I'm almost thankful for the experiences that I had. And I was able to learn a lot from the things I did wrong and the things I did right. And then also just from, being sad, I guess, made me happier now because I'm able to appreciate the fact that I wasn't always happy. And now I feel like I am almost always happy now. And not even just because of my circumstances. I was this way probably since I was 18 or since I was maybe 17 and a half after I kind of had, not everyone has this. And there's obviously a million different experiences with depression and with sadness. And I kind of had a realization at one point where I was like, I'm in control of my life and I need to, like, this is as much as writing is my own world and gaming is my own world. Like my brain is my, like my castle. My brain is my own world. Like if I tell myself, it's like the placebo effect. If I tell myself something enough, it can be, I can make it true. I can make it true. I'm the best, most awesome, most handsome, strongest, whatever guy in the world. And I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna be a billionaire, whatever. And I think that that's something that I said as a kid so much of just these little statements of I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna be an author. I'm gonna be a YouTuber. I'm gonna be this as these things. Even getting in fights. Like I had a fight with my older sister when it was over college, and my parents were incredibly responsible parents, and they had like college packages so for all of us. There's like a Florida, I think it's in Florida, you can do where you can like prepay over time for college and then you get into whatever university you want or something like that. And so they had that for me. And so it was a conversation when I was like 17 where they're like, hey, we have this for you. And we want you to college. And my sister was there and I was saying, I'm not going to college. So thank you, but no, thank you. And my sister was like, you are such an idiot. Like you're going to be homeless in 3 years. My parents were not saying that. They were saying, okay, that's fine. We respect whatever you want to do. Because like I said, at that time I was much more, I was much more adult then than I was now, but I still had a lot of childish tendencies. And I remember saying it, one of the cockiest things probably I'd ever said when I was like, Larry, no, I'll be making more money than you in 10 years, whatever. And you'll be stuck in college debt. And I was like, I was like, all right, well, I don't know how nice or true that was, but it was that mindset of like, confidence, not to the level of being outwardly talking to everybody, being like, no, I'm better than you or something, but being like with myself, like, no, don't tell me I have to go to college. Don't tell me I have to do this. I'm going to find my own way to do what I want to do. And I'm going to make it happen.
Create my own reality.
Yeah. You have to believe it for yourself. No one else is going to believe it for you.
You have
to,
you have to believe in yourself. I had, this is a very, very short thing, but I feel like it's an interesting life thing. I realized at some point, I was like, I think I'm very like creatively intelligent. I don't think I'm very like book smart. I'm terrible at math. I'm not, I don't know my history that well. I'm not great at science, all these subjects. But I'm great at talking to people and I'm great at understanding people and I'm great at, exuding like confidence and energy and happiness. And I feel like I realized at some point, probably around when I was like 17, I was like, that's almost more important than anything else. Because if you can go into, like, as an example, you can be the smartest person in the world and sit down and you're my interviewer and you ask me questions and I'm unsure, I answer them poorly, whatever. Sure. Versus I could come into the room of the interview and I could convince you of whatever. I could convince you, I'm whatever. And I actually did that when I interviewed for Apple, and that like, I was totally underqualified. I did not, when I went to that interview, I was totally underqualified. But I was able to walk my way around the interview very well. And I'm sure they weren't naive and, they probably realized I was puffing myself up a little bit and whatever. But at the end of the day, I think that it was that I was also willing to admit when I didn't know something or just be like, oh no, but you know what they'd say, what would you do in this situation? Instead of being like, I'd tell them the problem, be like, oh, well, I don't know the answer to that. Therefore I would Google it and I would try and figure out, I would use Reddit or whatever. And I think it's just a weird answer to hear. And I answer that question a lot when they were like, how would you fix this problem? Like, well, I'd probably go on Reddit. And then they're sitting there like, this is an Apple interview. What do you mean you go on a Reddit? I'm like, well, that's what I would do. And guess what? I'd probably solve it faster than the average person because I can type fast.
That's interesting.
Whatever.
Do you think that honesty and that confidence, that fake it till you make it, is a big part of why your first YouTube video took off? Because seldom does a first YouTube video take off, let alone someone like you under pressure who's like, I'm going all in.
Yeah, I will say, I think it's, I always say, my first video, but I slightly misleading. Mm-hmm. So just to like give context, I've been uploading YouTube videos since I was like a little kid. Like I did these like kid versus wild videos where like I was in the forest with my friends when I was like 10 and
Interesting.
11.
Like you were vlogging, like
Yeah. I did I had this vlog series where I talked about like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And then at some point I went through a phase where I wanted to be an editor. So I started editing and I edited like montages of like football players. And then I went into like song parodies at some point. And I kind of went through all these different phases as a YouTuber. And one of them was on my channel I use now, but it was branded as a different name. It was Dream Traps. And it was back in like 2013. And I did Minecraft like traps. Like I would trick other players into like falling into some crazy thing. And those were my videos. And yeah, actually that channel I ran with Sapnap. But he had a different name at the time. We ran this channel together. It was called Dream Traps. It was a group channel. And then at one point I was like, when I decided I was going to do YouTube, when I came back, I was like, I did everything wrong and I want to do things right. And so I was like, I want somebody to watch the videos on my channel now and be like, and not get recommended an old video and be like, oh, this guy's kind of trash. And so for the longest time, I started uploading. I actually uploaded one video before my first video. I think I've ever said this. It was like 6 months or 5 months something before my first video I ever uploaded as Dream. Or not 6 months. It was probably like 3 months or something, or 2 months. And it was I don't even remember what it was exactly. It was a video on a server I was a coder on. And it did terribly. It flopped. And I just deleted it and went, I'm trying again. I learned from that. I know what I did wrong. I think this is what people said in the comments. This is what I feel like I can do better. And it also solidified. I was like, okay, I'm not ready yet. So I took another month or two to actually come up with even more of a plan and be like, how can I learn what I did wrong? Like Mr. Beast even has videos up from when he was, playing Minecraft or whatever. And a lot of people keep their stuff up. And I see a lot of people talk about like, oh, it's bad to remove your old stuff. Like leave it up. People want to see where you came from. And I agree with that. But at the same time, I was like, I really wanted to create a brand. I wanted to be like, hey, no, this is me. This does not represent how I view myself right now. I want to be viewed this certain way. And so here's my new brand. And so I made my channel icon. I drew it myself. I came up with the concept. I was like, how can I make it different than someone else? Because I said this off camera to you guys, but one of the things I think is people ask for advice. The best advice I can ever give someone on how to be successful in anything really, but in YouTube specifically, is just you have to do something that is different than someone has done or better than someone has done. So if you're taking inspiration from someone, how can you do it better? If you're going to see a Mr. Beast video and be like, I want to do that something like that, Mr. Beast, that's perfectly fine. But be like, how can what did he do wrong? I'm sure there's always something you can take and improve, because guess what? He does that himself to every single video. He'll go back and watch through, I'm sure, and be like, what can I do better in my own video? So doing that to other people and doing it to yourself is like really important. And I feel like I did that. And then I came up with, I was like, okay, how can I make it different for my channel branding? I was like, what if I just made my channel branding like kind of crappy? I just made it kind of like, it looks like I didn't try. And so I did like a little smile guy. And then I was like, how else can I make it stand out? I was like, what if I just use like a repulsive color? I was like, I just use the most standout color. So I went into paint.net and I picked like piss green and went on my channel and was like, you know what? That's cool. And I ran with that. And then, of course, I shortened the name from Dream Traps to Dream, because I was like, Dream stands out more. I got so many people at the time that were like, even when I was first blowing up, they were questioning that decision and were like, Dream, like how you can't Google that, you can't whatever. Yeah. But I was like, but it's so simple. It's so easy to spread. It's so unique. And it also encaptures everything that I love about myself and everything that I love about the world, and that it's a dream. Dream is the word dream. I want everything I do to feel like that, to feel like the word dream. Like you can be, you have your own world. You have everything you can do. And so I was like, no, I don't care if you can't Google it. Eventually, if I'm big enough, you can. You'll look up dream and you'll pop me up instead of the definition of the word or whatever.
It's all in the line of like creating your own reality.
Yes.
Even the branding, right? It's like the smiley face. Like I can create my own version of it. Even a pre-face reveal, right? Like it's like a voice and an image and a concept, and I could create my own version of it.
I think with the name, it reminds me a lot of Apple. Like that's something that I'm pretty sure Apple also dealt with. Like you can't choose the name Apple, right? And expect to launch a tech company off of that name, because people know it as a fruit.
Yeah.
Like truly, I think that's something that
wasn't it? Because originally, well, I guess they had Macintosh. It was like that was a company, right? Was that what they started as Macintosh and then became Apple, or do you know?
Well, I think Steve Jobs wanted it to be something that was accessible, like a household item, not something like Microsoft that people don't understand, like what Microsoft is or what that means. Yeah. But I remember it was either in the book that was written about Steve Jobs' life or in one of the movies, talking about that idea that like, and having pushback on a name that like you can't pick an accessible name.
So it's funny actually. So talking about names. So my two roommates right now and my best friends for the longest time, GeorgeNotFound and Sapnap, They both went under different names, and we were friends for a very long time. And when my first video blew up, and then I was okay. This could just be one and whatever. I think I know what I'm doing. I think I have a good strategy, but I'm gonna apply it a couple more times, see what happens. I had video, it kept doing well. I went to first George and then Sapnap, and I was like, hey, I think I cracked the code to YouTube. I think I know how, whatever, but I was like, but I need you. I need you to be a part of it. And I need Sapnap to be a part of it. And so I went to him and I was like, if I have a plan and I tell you it, and you follow it, will you follow it to a T, essentially? And we follow it together, and we put it together. And he was like, yes. And we sat there. I came up with the name GeorgeNotFound and Sapnap for them.
Oh, interesting.
And we sat there together coming up with them. But it was we had the rules for the name. So I was like, okay, here's the rules. The rules are 1, it has to be short and simple. It can't be too long. GeorgeNotFound was like the longest it could possibly be. I was like, 2, it can't have almost any. If we can think of a single misspelling where someone can hear it vocally and misspell it, then rule it out. And so there were so many names we went through where it was like, but they can put an E there instead of an A, or they can put a C there instead of an S, or whatever. And I was like, no, I want you to be able to say your name out loud and have no one mishear it, and no one be able to, say it's not. And I was like, the other rule is you have to be able to get on every platform. And that was more for me. I was like, we can't, I can't, whatever. And then I was like, and the final thing is that you have to be able to have some kind of meaning behind it. It has to have some meaningful thing to you. Like, to me, dream is important. And so we have to make it something meaningful. It can't just be, you can't just go, I'm going to name it, some random collection of characters or whatever. And so how we came to Sapnap was I flipped his old username, which was Pandas. I flipped it upside down. After it was upside down, I flipped it sideways, like the other way. So it was a P instead, or upside down. So it was like Sapnaps instead of a D in Pandas. It was a P. Down. It's Sapnap. How do you misspell that? And he was like, sure. Should I buy the account? I was like, I already did. And then I did the exact same thing with my friend George. The one we were actually stuck on for him for a while, which he came up with, was Sir George. And he was like, because I can think of my branding with it. I'll have like a little monocle, and which is funny because he never did anything with like a monocle or anything like that. It would have been, how the world would be different if Sir George existed instead of GeorgeNotFound. But we came to GeorgeNotFound because I was looking for, it was when I typed in youtube.com/Sir George or something like that, it came on the not found page. What if it's just George not found? I was like, you're a coder, it has meaning to you because you code.
Oh my God.
You have websites.
404, not
and
found.
So we ran with that. It's like, I think there's no right blueprint. Otherwise, everyone would do it if there was like, this is the right way to do it. But I think there are so many things you can do to increase the chances of you being successful.
Yeah, that's just good branding.
Yeah. So I laid those things out, and there was one of them. And another thing that I said to them, which still it stands very much to this day, is that we are good friends, and that we will be friends. We will stay friends, and we will stay together. Because one of the biggest things that actually that can hurt like a channel is like you changing the heart behind it. And I was like, if we're going to do stuff together and you're going to be in all my videos, we're going to be in all each other's videos, we have to know we have to know. So we had this conversation where we were like, do we like love each other? Do we love each other enough to be like, we are like family. We are sticking together in this no matter what. We will work out everything thick and thin and make sure we stay together. Otherwise, let's be less associated. Let's do our own thing a little bit more than being a team. And I was like, even if this plan doesn't, there may be times where you see it and you go, it doesn't seem like it's working. But the problem is it has to all go together. You can't take parts of it away. Otherwise you lose it all.
I didn't know that.
They both agreed.
Sounds like a conversation that would be had at the beginning of the Beatles or One Direction. Yeah. Right? Of like, do we really like each other?
I saw a clip of One Direction. I had no idea. This is so off topic, but it's so quick.
Yeah.
I had no idea. There was like a TikTok clip where it was like One Direction being formed. I didn't know it was like, it was formed by them. They had like those little pictures.
Yeah.
It was like Simon Cowell or whatever. I saw that. I thought it was like a troll, like parody thing.
No, it's real.
That's
real. Yeah. It was like calculated.
I was like, is this real?
Yeah, it's calculated.
What?
But that friendship is so important. Like, and I think because creating is a lonely career and it can be isolating, Samir and I think we've said often, I don't know if we would still be doing this if it was just one of us. Right?
Yeah, we took it a step further and had the channel together, right?
Which is
Colin and
I mean, I would not be, just to say,
Yeah.
people have, that's an air tag on my mask that's going off.
Whoa.
Okay.
I think someone's trying to find you.
Oh,
is someone trying to find you? Right
no,
now?
it's like a glitch happens now and then. I think it's like there's
someone about to show up here. Are the police coming? Do your parents call the police?
There's like a piece of it. I think it presses up against it or something, and then it makes.
Would you like this one?
So yeah, I mean, I do think like genuinely, I can say right now with 100% confidence that if we had decided to go a more independent route, and we were not a team, and I hadn't done almost everything with them throughout the years, that like there's been so many different times where I may have just called it quits or been like, hey, I'm successful. I'm gonna go and do now that I have money or whatever, I'm going to go and just write in my free time, or I'm going to go and, do this or whatever I want to do. And having them as a support backing and know like, no, I'm also in it I'm not just in it for me. I'm in it for them. I'm in it for my family. I'm in it for whatever. I think that definitely helped me as well.
So this strategy that you had clearly panned out, right? And it panned out really quickly. Your first or your second video blew up.
Which was totally luck. I mean, the strategy was not, but it's like, there's another quote that actually my dad used to say a lot.
Yeah.
Is he'd be like, he's a sports guy. And so whenever he coached me in sports and stuff, and he'd always say like, I'd say, that was just a lucky shot. So he's like, well, it's like, the luck is a combination of preparation and opportunity.
Yeah.
So yes, it could be lucky, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't just like expect luck to come. But yeah, so the fact that it was so quick was definitely luck and had a lot to do with the COVID pandemic, because everyone went inside, and what are you going to do when you're inside? You're going to watch YouTube or watch live streams. And so I contribute how fast it was to that timing. But obviously, it did pan out, and there was a lot of luck and a lot of strategy and a lot of hiccups and stuff that popped up randomly that were like, oh, this works out.
It was 500 days between 1 million subscribers at the end of 2019 to 20 million subscribers. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane. I was just hitting milestones like twice a month or something and being like, oh my God. It was really hard to, it felt unreal, I guess. I always would be like, I'm going to wake up and this is going to be fake. Like this is not, how is this happening? And it was such a quick transition that I never really got to go through the phase of being like a mini celebrity to being like, it was just like, no one knew me. And then everyone knew me. And I was the face of, YouTube for a year or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to think about that fact that I never, and it's the same way where like, I never got that experience especially because I was faceless and I only face real. Then it was, of course, that was my max. I went from, never having been approached by anyone ever in public, ever, to literally not being able to leave my house without going into a 7-Eleven and having somebody be like, oh my God, Dream, can I take a picture? And so that's
how did people know it was you?
No, I'm saying after the face reveal.
Oh, after face reveal.
So yeah, after the face reveal, it was very much. I mean, I had a couple like scary moments before the face reveal. Like I had one person that was delivering a mattress that was like, he's like, do you do YouTube? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, you just sound familiar. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I no one before I did the face reveal did, but then after I did, it was like I would go outside and it would just be mayhem. And it's one of the things where I actually it was weird for the first like day or two, and then I adjusted to it. But I had this like this moment where there was like a day or two where like it felt really weird going anywhere, because like even the people who didn't recognize me, I could sometimes see somebody whisper and be like, oh my God, are they talking about me? Do they I didn't have the experience of knowing what it was like to kind of walk around in public.
Yeah.
But now I'm okay with it. I've accepted it and just be like, oh yeah, who cares, whatever. But it's still that thought where like sometimes it bothers me more if I know someone knows me, but they don't say anything, or then because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like 99% sure this guy that's sitting next to me at dinner knows me. They're not saying anything, so I'm constantly, oh my God, are they gonna take a picture of me?
Oh,
do I need to watch? Do I need to make sure I don't pick my nose? Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, our fame and our level is nowhere near yours, but even I've had an experience where I've been out to dinner with my partner, and then after I'll get a comment on the channel that's like, hey, I didn't want to say anything, but I was right next to you. At a communal table was the experience.
Yeah. And you're like, did I say something
And you're
weird?
like, oh, we were kind of having like a serious conversation about our relationship and family and stuff. Like, whoa, I wish I knew that you were seated right next to me.
Yeah. I'll have that. And it's to me, it's funnier because like I keep obviously my family and like relationships and whatever very separate from like YouTube and like the public eye. So no one knows my family or whatever. And so, but sometimes when I'm out in public, I don't mind. I'll still go out in public with my family. I'll still go out in public with people, friends, whatever. But like when I notice that when I'm with like my family, the people I get people coming up to me way less than when I'm with like other people, even people that they don't recognize. Like if I'm with George and they don't recognize George, come to me, oh my God, Dream, take a picture. Whereas I'm with like my mom or my dad, they don't. And it's because I think they recognize that's his mom or that's his dad or that's like, someone he's with or whatever.
Interesting.
And then they don't come up. And I'm like, so then it makes me paranoid. So it makes me more paranoid. I'm like, no, I want you to come up. That way I know that I can tell my mom to go away or whatever. Yeah. And so it just makes me extra like on edge.
On that rise to like just mega kind of high viewership, just like massive notoriety on YouTube. I'm so curious about what makes a Dream video so popular, because some of your videos have in the hundreds of millions of views. Like, what are the ingredients that make a dream video that popular?
I think that I've gone in obviously like phases of growth, and I've posted a lot of videos. I think genuinely like every video on my channel right now I have up, I'm pretty proud of. I think they're good videos, even the ones that I'm like, my mic was kind of bad there, or this was a dumb joke or whatever. But I think that they all have something very similar, and that I kept with every series and every video I did. One, I kept improving. And two, I kept trying to do something new, something different that someone hadn't done, or something unique to me that I was passionate about. And I think you mentioned like Mask earlier, but that song, the big point of that song to me, even though yes, it was about obviously escapism kind of in through the mask, it was also about my experience with ADHD, which affected my life massively when I was going through school and everything. Obviously, I have like extreme intense ADHD, like very extreme, and so I go through these phases of like hyperfixation where I'm like focused on something and I cannot I deal with my books. There was a period of time where I was reading a book every single day and just that from morning to night, whatever. And I wouldn't enjoy doing anything else because that's what I liked at the time. I did that with different like YouTube series. Like I would get into a YouTube series, be like, I love this, one, until I don't anymore. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll find something new. But I think that the biggest component for me was one, everything I did, I truly had passion behind. It was something that I actually did genuinely enjoy, something I wanted to do. It was not me going, hey, this could blow up on YouTube. It was me going, hey, this is a fun thing for me and my friends to play, or this is a fun topic for me to talk about, or this is a fun video for me to edit, or this is going to be funny, or, whatever. So I think that's kind of one component, is just genuinely, actually having meaning behind your videos, which goes into like the name thing. Meaning behind your name. That's important, even though it seems not important, it is important. I think another one was, again, doing things different. So you can take the same concept and do it slightly differently. So one thing I did was like, I took a pretty simple concept of like speedrunning Minecraft, which became my biggest series of Manhunt. And I was like, well, what if someone was trying to stop me from beating the game? That's kind of just an interesting component. And I Googled it and I tried to find if anyone had done that. I found one video of like someone in Super Mario Brothers or something having done something kind of similar. And it did okay. I think the video did decent. I was like, hey, but no one's like done this concept, but it seems so simple. You're speedrunning the game, which is a super popular thing, and someone's like trying to fight you, which is also a super popular kind of.
So for a non-gaming audience, speedrunning is you're trying to beat the game as fast as possible.
You're trying to complete the goal of the game as quickly as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And then the manhunt part is a new character or friend is trying to kill you.
They're trying to slow you down and make it so you can't stop you from beating it. So it's like, you're trying to beat the game as quickly as possible, and there's someone that's trying to be your detriment. They're trying to be your downfall.
That's just good storytelling too, right? It's like main character has an objective. Here's the obstacle.
And then you introduce what actually took it off. So the first Manhunt video actually it did okay. I did not go into that thinking this is going to be this massive series, but I saw the potential. After we did it, I was like, wow, that was fun. That was super fun. I watched the video back and I was like, this is epic. When I was editing it, I actually was able to use music that I hadn't used before. I was like, this is actually interesting. I'm using music that I don't typically hear in Minecraft like gameplay. Like I was using more intense, like kind of like, opera music or something or stuff like that. And I used a couple like that. I only used it for the first Manhunt. I only used like one or two songs like that, which ended up being almost all the music later on in the Manhunts. It was not a great video, but the concept was unique. And then the music made it feel more intense than it was when there were certain moments and stuff. And then I edited in a way where I cut out I cut things in almost like a misleading way. Like I cut things around, I move things around. And I'm kind of notorious for like making it seem like something is true that's not in the video, to where like you can feel like I'm about to die, when in reality, if you watch the raw footage, you're like, oh, he was not even close to dying. Like he was fine, or he had some reason to believe that he was going to be fine. And so I realized after that first video that I did a crappy job at it. The editing was okay. It was, the concept the video wasn't that great. But I realized the potential it had. And so I did it, 5-6 times, kind of learning. And I trained and became a better Minecraft player as well, kind of in that process. And then I introduced, going back to what you said about two awesome things. Yeah. There's the third one, which is just a worldwide understandable thing, an underdog. Like if you have an underdog. So all I did was I was like, what if I did the same thing, but it's two people trying to stop me? So then the concept just becomes, same thing, Minecraft speedrunner versus two people instead of one person. And it's the exact same concept, but all of a sudden now you have someone to root for. Now you have a reason why you go, not only, I'm trying to beat the game, someone's trying to stop me, but here's why it's hard. Because there's two of them and there's one of me.
Oh my God, that's so interesting.
Those are really easy optics.
Yeah.
It's such an easy thing. Anyone can see that thumbnail, see two people and one person below and be like, which I used almost every single video, which Mr. Beast actually like called me one time and he was like, why do you use almost the same thumbnail on everyone? And how does it work? How does it keep getting the views? I was like, I think it's just because no one was doing what I was doing. And so when they saw that thumbnail or a very similar, I would change certain things just to make it so you would be like, oh, that's different. That you knew that was Dream.
There was a consistency.
This is Dream. This is a Dream video. Wow, I want to watch this one.
You know, that's the thing that's so important is like brands are consistent. You know, at a glance, you can tell if it's Dream, right? And that's like from your face, your logo, like there's so much
lime
about
green,
you.
the color.
Yeah, the lime green.
I made my Minecraft character.
Yeah.
You can customize it. Like almost full body lime green and then like a little thing.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that was I was like, it like just stands out so much. You see me in like when I was small, you'd see me in a thumbnail with other YouTubers and you would just see the green blob that's there instead of the other people because they just look like other Minecraft guys. And everyone was like, why do you have this skin? It doesn't even look like a Minecraft skin. Well, because it looks ridiculous. And you look at it and go, wow.
Yeah.
So as your viewership really starts to take off, Manhunt series is taking off, what does your operation look like from a business perspective? Like, is there a moment when lots of money starts coming in?
Yeah. That's actually a really good question. I think that obviously my first paycheck I ever got obviously was right before my rent, but I don't remember a moment where it was like, I think it went from 0 to 100 so quickly that I never had that moment where it was like, oh my God, I'm rich. Like that. There was never that. It was just kind of like, this is working. And then it was this constant fear of losing. It was this constant fear of, yeah, I had made this month, but like this could be gone. So I need to grind my ass off to make sure that it's not this next month that it's gone. And so I never really had that moment, I guess. And my operation's always kind of been, it still is. It's definitely grown a lot more now. Like I still have edited every video that's ever been posted on my channel myself.
Oh, wow.
And I plan on doing that on my main channel at least for the foreseeable future. I've started branching out into, we should get an editor for my second channel, an editor for shorts and stuff like that. Because I definitely don't have the time anymore to do stuff like that. But like I coded the plugins for the longest time on my channel, me and George, we coded stuff until we hired a friend of ours that's a developer that we coded with and coded stuff with. And so the stuff we really needed was like thumbnails to be made. We Photoshopped, me and George would sit there and Photoshop them together. The editing I did. And then the video concepts we came up with, and then the code to make them work, we coded. And so it was like, the operation was really just like us spending every single day just grinding and doing it. I think that the fact that like we did that, it made it more unique to us and made it so we had an advantage over other YouTubers. And that like, we wanted to do something in Minecraft. We didn't have to, go reach out to somebody and pay and do all this stuff. We were just like, let's just do it. Let's code it. Let's make it happen. And so for a lot of my first videos, we did crazy things like a tornado into Minecraft or whatever that we just coded ourselves. And we're like, we can put this in and no one else can do it because they can't code. They're a YouTuber.
Yeah, the unique factor was you. So was there though, like I've heard you say that like if someone asks you what you do and they aren't familiar with YouTube, you say, I'm in advertising.
I used to say that
which
all the
I
time.
think is it's what Colin and I said. And I still say sometimes if someone's completely unfamiliar, I'm like, I'm in the advertising business.
Yeah.
So was that for you, like initially the money was all coming from AdSense or did you start doing brand deals? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was all AdSense for the longest time. I released like merch, I think in like mid 2020 and it was good, but it was not like a massive like revenue stream until later on. And then I had like a Patreon where I posted the plugins that I would code.
Got it.
That was actually for a while, that was a pretty big, cause I used to post like maybe once, twice a week or something. And with a new unique plugin, I would just put them all up on there for $20 or whatever. You could have all of them if you wanted. And so there was a lot of even other YouTubers that were like, what? And going and doing that. That was for like a decent amount of time. That was one of my biggest revenue streams actually.
Do you remember like the first AdSense check you got where you were like, holy shit? Like, was there an amount that you were just like, oh my God?
I think it was $1 million. It was over $1 million.
Holy shit. In 1 month?
Yes.
Oh my God, dude.
I think that month, obviously I was like, that is absurd to be able to play Minecraft and make Minecraft videos and get a check in the mail that is $1 million and be like, wow, that is just incredible. Now that was not a common occurrence, but
that's crazy.
But it did happen.
Yeah. And what was your relationship to money growing up? Like as a kid in your family, like what is your relationship to money? Like that $1 million can mean a lot of different things based on your relationship to money.
Yeah. So I feel like I guess my relationship to money is interesting. My family's, I think, very middle class. I think we did go through some like financial struggles and stuff. That there was when the recession hit, we moved and stuff related, obviously from that. And so we definitely went through like money problems, but I'd still say we were middle class. And my experience was always the fact that I felt my parents always did an amazing job of, I never even knew that there was financial struggles happening even during that time. Yeah. Christmases were still the same, whatever, and everything was fine. My personal relationship with my parents always made me, I guess, work for everything that I would have. I always had to. I guess that's probably mostly normal, but it was very much like we're not giving you money for anything. If you want to go to the movies or whatever, maybe we'll give you $5. But if you want candy or something or anything, or you want to drink, or you want to go to you want to buy a game or whatever, you have to work for it. And they gave me avenues to do that. Oh, you can do extra chores for money or whatever. But I remember the first time I got a check where I was like, this is extra money. Like, this is not money that I don't have anything to spend this on right now. Yeah. It was, I took $50,000 and I divided it up to my entire family. I had my siblings. I had $10,000 to my mom, to my dad, to my sister, my other sister, my brother. And I did it because I felt like at that point I was like, okay, I'm at the point where I'm successful enough where if I lose it all, I'm going to feel like an idiot. I'm going to feel like I lost it all and I'm a failure, whatever. But I felt like if I did that, if I gave that money to my family, that I could risk it all and never be worried that I'm going to feel like I'm a failure, because I could feel like even if I lose it all, I didn't lose it all, because there was a massive impact I had on my mom, my dad, my brother, whatever. And so that was one of the first times where I felt like, wow, I can really truly do good with the money that I have. Yeah. And I did that, and I continued to do that for a very long time with stuff like that. Like after I got that $1 million check, the first thing I did was I paid off my grandparents' house, and they were going to lose their house because they had been paying it for a while, and paid it off. And I was like, you know what, here we go. And my grandma cried and said, I told you were going to, Because she used to, my grandma used to joke and say, like, she used to joke and be like, you're gonna have to be rich and take care of me when you're older, whatever. Yeah. And so.
That's making it at like a crazy level though, man. Like that's wild. I'm sure your family was just like, or even today, I'm sure they're just like, oh my God, you did the thing that you said you were going to do, probably at a scale that is unimaginable. Right? Yeah.
No, my parents are always really supportive, and my family in general is really supportive and proud of me. And I always tear up at those messages from my dad, especially given that we didn't used to have the best relationship. But we luckily, I think it's also important to me that I improved my relationship with my dad a lot before YouTube. Like, it was not at all. Like, I was like best friends with my dad when I started YouTube.
Cool. So, that's great.
But I wasn't for the longest period of time. But be able to get a text from him saying, I'm so proud of you. You inspire me so much because you do what you put your mind to. And I'm like, getting a text like that from like a family member or something is really makes me think, okay, well, what's the impact I'm having on people that aren't my family? It's amazing. And so
we've seen you at VidCon before, and the crowds are like, they're young and they're excited and they're loud and they're large. I'm curious for you, what's your relationship with being in person in front of your fans with crowds that large?
I feel like I weirdly haven't had it be. I remember the first time I ever. So there's a couple things. One, the first time I ever started to interact with people in real life, it definitely changed my perspective on the number 30 million or the number whatever.
Of course.
Where I was like, okay, that's crazy. And even just being able to be like, oh, I'm in like some random area in Alabama on a road trip or something. I'm walking into a 7-Eleven and there's some older guy being like, wait, are you Dream? It's like,
I think the biggest crowd I've seen in our industry, or like the most rabid crowd I've ever seen, is the Dream SMP crowd. Like at VidCon, when we saw, like, it's the closest thing to like Beatlemania that I've seen is the Dream SMP. What is, for anyone who's completely unfamiliar, what is the Dream SMP? And what do you think has made it have this cultural significance that it does?
Sure, yeah. I think, so the Dream SMP, it's actually over now. It's almost a show. It was a show almost. The best way to describe it is it was a live show that you could watch the perspective of any character you wanted to. That's kind of the best way to describe it. But to break it down to what it actually is it was a Twitch stream from different perspectives of people like me or my friends or whatever, playing Minecraft and role playing live to story points. Like we'd come up with plots that we were going to do and then kind of role play them. But there'd be sometimes things would change when we improv. And so it was live on Twitch. So that's kind of what it was. But I like to relate it to like, it was like a TV show. You were watching it and you were watching all these different characters, but it was the first one you could ever pick your character and watch their story, no matter what it was. I think that was the biggest thing that intrigued people about being like, wow, this is a very, very interesting like concept. And then I think that the fact that it was like so many people just having fun and playing Minecraft in a unique way for so long and really being like personable. I think the biggest reason that I feel like, at least I feel like I didn't find my audience found me. And I feel like the reason for that is because I've just been genuine, I guess. Like I've been myself, and it's just me and my best friends who I've been playing Minecraft with for 10 years that are playing Minecraft on YouTube. Wow, that's, what a surprise. And I think that people really connect to that and relate to that. And I think that people criticized me for a long time. I still get it. I get it a lot less now than I used to, for like parasocial relationships, or for being like you're treating your fans like they're your friends or something, which is kind of what that is. And in my mind, it's like, no, I'm treating my fans like they're not numbers. Like they are people. They are people that are behind that screen, behind that number. There is a person that has a life, that has goals and aspirations, and has things that every word you say impacts them. And I looked at it in my mind. I also had experience kind of with being like a stan, or being like a massive fan for when I was a kid, of like sports. Like I had sports jerseys, and I was like the biggest fan of the Oklahoma Sooners, and like their quarterback. I had like posters of him on my wall, and so I was like people.
Which quarterback? Just out of curiosity.
Baker Mayfield. So I had Baker Mayfield. But of course, there were people before then.
Have
as
you
well.
met him?
What?
Have you met him?
I have not met Baker Mayfield.
Super
I would love to
interesting
meet
to
Baker
meet him.
Mayfield.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
But I did go to one of the first things I did after my face reveal was they invited me to the Oklahoma Sooners. I met a bunch of the current team. And I went on and did some stuff there and went to a game. But
it's an interesting point on the parasocial relationship. And I wanted to ask you about that, because you do get a lot of criticism around, I think in general, when you're at your size and scale. Yeah. But also because of how much you've evolved publicly. Like you grew up kind of over the past couple of years. Yeah. Under somewhat of not even a microscope, like under this massive light of people looking at you. One thing that, as fans of this space and as being impressed with your branding, Colin and I bought this, which is your USB stick.
Wow. Okay.
So we bought this after your face reveal. Yeah. Just super curious about it. And on the notion of like parasocial relationship, on this is like photos of you as a kid. It's like more intimate look into Clay, I would say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me about this, because I was very intrigued by this. I think this had mixed reviews of like your fans being excited.
There's a lot of criticism behind saying like, that's so creepy. He's putting like pictures of them. Yeah. Like, so on that, there's more than just pictures, but essentially like we were coming with the idea of doing a USB stick. And I was like, well, what if we put something on it? And I was like, what do we put on the USB stick to make it even more meaningful? And what is something I would put on there that I wouldn't just want to like tweet out or put somewhere else, that I would only want my biggest fans to, share on their own, or if they get shared, then whatever. And I thought of a bunch of stuff. I thought there's some there's some parts of like my book that one of the books I was talking about.
I saw that on there.
There's pictures of me as a kid. There's emails from my like school teachers when I was a kid. And I think to me, it was just like, this is a cool thing. And I'm very interested in like, I'd be interested in seeing your baby pictures and like whatever. And
I'll send you my baby pictures, man.
What people were probably uncomfortable with too is like the format of it. The fact that it was physical, because it's really just like a Patreon. Like you're giving like gated access to something behind a paywall, right? Like I'm sure
I wasn't selling my baby. That was like, they're like, selling his baby pictures. Like that's just like an easy headline. I do think that's a little, that if I was selling my baby pictures, hey guys, just buy my baby pictures. That is a little weird, but I guess technically I am. But in reality, it was just like, hey, I want to put my kind of childhood and my me growing up on a USB stick. And so that obviously includes.
Here's how I see it. Cause like the way I see it is, you were talking about Spider-Man earlier in the interview. This is like, do you want to know the origin story of Peter Parker? Yeah. Right? You want to know some lore about a character that you love? And so I think it's like, it's all new, right? All of this is new to have characters like you grow on the internet is to the size and scale.
I mean, and we didn't like, and this is the thing as well, is like, we didn't increase the price because of that. I think it was the same price as it would have been without anything on it. It was just like, I just wanted to make it slightly more than just, hey, a USB stick with a smile on it. Like I was like, hey, how can I?
And your core fans probably cherish this.
They loved it.
Yeah, this thing is like cherished by, and I understand what you're saying, because I grew up like massive fan of like emo bands, emo and pop punk bands. And like, I still have, guitar picks that some bands would throw out, right? And I would hold it and they'd be like, oh, I caught it, So like that type of stuff for me, I think that's like meaningful for you as a kid, whatever you connect with. Yeah. If you're a fan of something, like this type of stuff is meaningful. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. So when we talk about like you showing up in physical spaces, like I can't help but think about you touring as a musician. So music is obviously now, it has been a part of your brand, but it feels like in this moment, you're putting the mask back on. You released a music video at the same time for your new song. it feels like there's a little bit of momentum around music right now. And there's actually a history of faceless musicians. You brought up Marshmello, Daft Punk, Gorillaz, right? Like there's a history of this. And now that I'm like listening to the music, I'm looking at you, I'm seeing the brand, I'm kind of like, this looks and feels like something I've seen before, right? Just with a lot more fandom around it before you even go on tour.
You gotta do it different or better, right?
Yeah.
One or the other. I mean, yeah, I love music, and I at this point now, I guess I've been dabbling in music for 3 years.
Yeah.
I went into music because of the storytelling aspect, and never was, I never was like, oh, I've an angelic voice or, whatever.
Yeah.
It was very much like I never even sang, and but I had a story I wanted to tell, and I thought it was interesting that I didn't feel like I had a medium to tell it on. Like I wanted to tell a story. It was about one of my ex-girlfriends, and regardless of what the story was, I was like, that feels weird to like talk about on a live stream. It feels weird to like put out on a tweet. It almost feels like you're like targeting them, or you're doing something along those lines. And so I didn't feel like I really had a way to express certain like feelings or emotions I had, whether it be about my family or about loved ones or about life experiences that just feel awkward almost in other mediums. And so I didn't know that whenever I reached out to Parker, who I made my first song with. I reached out because I had a story I wanted to tell, and I was like, hey, I've never done music. I think it'd be fun to try. Would you be able to take this story and help me make it into a song? And he was like, yeah. And then we did it, and that it really, once it was done and I put it out there, it made me realize how much of an outlet it was. And I was like, wow, it feels great to be able to tell that story, have it not feel weird, have it feel organic, and also be able to tell it in a unique way. And it was fun. I mean, I was crafting this big story, and like I can write a book, but then it's like condense it. And it very much related me to like video editing and stuff. Like I do the same thing when I'm video editing. You take a massive like VOD, and then you cut it down. You have to find out what's the retention bits. You cut it down. And that's like building a song, in my experience so far, has been the same, I guess, in that it's a very similar space of condensing a story and still being able to tell it in a meaningful way. And so I love that. I did my first 3 songs. They each were very different from each other in terms of like the process behind them. One was much more like industry, one was much more on my own, and one was much more like just an intro with with a feature and whatever. To be able to decide and be like, hey, I feel like I enjoy this enough to take this seriously, and almost take the same approach to what I did with YouTube, where I was like, hey, if I'm going to treat this like a job, I have to actually treat it like a job and treat it seriously, because the music industry is a very serious industry.
Yeah.
And making music is not, you can't just go in and be like, oh, hey, I have a 10 million followers, and therefore I'm going to make music and people will listen to it. And so I primarily wanted to tell those stories, and then now obviously putting out more. I do plan on stepping more into it. I just actually it's just now pretty much public. This is the first time I guess I'm saying it specifically. But I signed a record deal with Republic Records.
Damn.
Last year actually. It's been a long time now. And
pre-face reveal or
no, it was after the face reveal. But it was in the talks during that whole era. And during the face reveal, we were in discussions for a long time. But then and really I was like, I went to them and was kind of like, hey, I want to take music seriously. I want to do things with resources behind me. And but I actually do want to do it right. So I want to learn. I want to learn how to make music and how to do it right and how to tell my stories. And so I spent a long time. It's been 2 years between my last song and the song I just put out. And during those 2 years, in the same way that during those 6 months I was studying YouTube, I was looking into music and how it works and how the industry works and figuring out how can I actually put the stories out there I want to put out there in a way that people will relate to, people will enjoy, and make them good and make good legit music that you can listen to and be like, hey, this is I really enjoy this. I'm not saying my old stuff was not good or legit, but I think it's a lot less good and legit than a lot of the stuff that I'm working on now. And so I'm stepping in more into the music world, and the mask actually has nothing to do with that. But I do think that it's cool that it's faceless is more normal.
Yeah, it's more normal in music.
Yeah,
it's super interesting. So you're for real, like with music, because like I feel like a lot of creators we see, you grow a massive audience. Music's a pretty viable option because if you have a song that hits, it's like or like tour, like those are really good businesses.
And even like diss tracks could get millions, but seriously, if you boil it down to like diss tracks, which are some of the like musically some of the worst music.
Yeah.
Right. But they're like culturally relevant to a group of people, can find millions of streams. Right. And so I think people have that thought, same thing of like, well, you can just do it because you're popular.
Yeah, I mean, I never really had that thought, I guess. Like again, my first, I was literally scrolling TikTok and I saw like a TikTok where someone commented on his TikTok and he said like, comment down below, I'm turning your comments into songs. And then he made like a banger song and I was like, what? This guy is like awesome. How did he do that? And I was like, can you do that with me? That'd be sick. And then obviously enjoyed the process, but I did never put out any music videos. I didn't up until this point now. My first songs, I did almost no promotion for them. I never promoted them. Probably most people on my main channel didn't even know I made them, other than maybe through memes or for people talking about them organically, like not through me. I didn't like try and throw it in people's faces and be like, guys, I'm making music, whatever. I really just was like, hey, this is kind of, if you want to check this out, you can.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I probably mentioned it in a live stream or something. And just, put it out there and with the stories I wanted to tell. Until I found out that I was like, hey, I actually feel like I can take this seriously. And then now, I want to step in. I want to learn. Obviously, I still have a long way to go. There's still upwards trajectory, just like with
YouTube,
in terms of like learning and being better at it. So
you just have to do it in public, which is which is an interesting thing to have to do.
That's why I did take a lot of time as well to do some of it in private and to make sure, hey, if I don't want to be like, hey, even just right when I signed the record deal as well, just be like instantly like, hey, no, hey, I'm gonna put you're gonna see all the crap before we get to the gold or whatever. So I wanted to make sure I at least had some really, really good quality, high quality stories to tell, because that is my most important thing. And then also work with some awesome professional producers and stuff that can make the sound really awesome. And then also take singing lessons and stuff to make sure that, I learn how to sing and better, use my vocal skills, which actually, funnily enough, is as a faceless creator, one of the reasons I blew up in the first place, not because of my singing, but my voice. Like I always have people say, you have an interesting voice. I like how your voice sounds, in videos and stuff. And so, it's not, obviously that's not necessarily for singing. It doesn't mean I'm a good singer, but
what are your musical inspirations? Like because like I have a sense of where I think they are, but I'm curious where they're actually from.
I think I find I've gotten asked that before, and my answer is always like, well, I relate so much more to like the story behind the music than the music itself, which is I think why I have the avenue where I'm like, I want to tell this story. So like Alec Benjamin, who I did my third song with, he is such a forward storyteller. Like you listen to a song, you cannot miss the story. If you listen to one of his like songs in his music, you cannot miss the story there. And the only reason we ended up collabing in the first place is because I was like singing a song of his on a Discord podcast of mine or something one day, and he saw it and reached out and was like, hey man, and then we talked and I talked about music and how what I was doing with it, and we made a song. But so I get inspired by a lot of songs that have really powerful like storytelling. A funny example is like Eminem. Like I feel like there's a lot of his music that I don't like, and I don't like a lot of his things, but there was like multiple songs I've heard of his when I was like a kid on the bus or whatever, where I was like, wow, that's like, he did a song called Headlights that was about his mom. Yeah. And I remember I cried when I was in a fight with my mom, put that song on and was like crying. And like, it's more of so like, I don't think, he's an amazing singer or he's, whatever, but the story that he put into it and the heart, you can at least tell there's heart behind the stuff. And so I feel like with my music, in terms of inspiration, I really just want to be able to encapsulate the stories, because I have so many stories to tell and so many things that I want so much to put out into the world. And I've done it through Minecraft content. I've done it through, streams and stuff, but it's touching a whole different group of people. There's people that don't watch Minecraft or that don't, watch Twitch streams, and having a whole different group of people to kind of spread that same message to in a different, memorable way, where you can listen to a song and be like, wow, I can tell there's heart behind this. I can relate to this story. Yeah. And so even though like, as an example, talking about how I look at my old stuff and go, oh, that's kind of cringe or whatever. Like I love Mask because of the fact that it was my heart and soul into it. I don't love Mask musically. I don't love Mask as, for my singing ability, or even like lyrically. I think I could have told the story better this and that way, but I love the fact that it was just me. Like I wrote almost all the lyrics, and I sat there and was like, what story do I want to tell? And I told it. And so being able to keep that aspect while still learning and growing to me is really important.
What's the story of your most recent song? Like what story are you telling with it?
So my most recent song is called Until I End Up Dead. And the whole concept of the song, the actual phrase Until I End Up Dead, was actually just from a conversation when I got into the room on the day that I was writing Until I End Up Dead. And I was talking about a good friend of mine, a content creator, Technoblade, who was also a Minecraft YouTuber. He did a lot of the same stuff as me. We interacted obviously a lot. He was on the Dream SMP. And he was the same age as me, and he had family and everything. And he suddenly passed away from cancer. Obviously, his dad posted a video on his YouTube channel that I'm sure a lot of people have seen and was very heartbreaking. And I had talked to his dad before then and knew the video was coming and was actually the person to break the news to a lot of people. I broke the news to GeorgeNotFound about it happening because he reached out to me. His dad reached out to me through Technoblade's account and said, "Hey, here's my phone number," and we connected through that. And then also about in a similar situation when I was a kid. I guess the situation is similar, but the sentiment I got from it was similar. Essentially, a good friend of mine, his mom randomly passed, and he was the same age as me and everything. And I remember being at her funeral and crying kind of selfishly because I was picturing my mom more so than because his mom was gone. And going back to Technoblade, I was like, it made me realize like life is so short, and he was just like me. He was the exact same age as me and his life was so similar to mine. And I was like, that could have been me. That easily could have been me. I don't think most people even probably realize this, piecing it together, but like he got his diagnosis according to what I put together from like Technodad and his dad, knew he was dying in like 6 months and then posted funny YouTube videos about the fact that he was dying, making, giving us hope and stuff as well. And I just never, even knowing he had cancer, I was just like, oh, well, yeah, he's fine. He's going to be, I remember vividly him posting that video and being like, oh, he's gonna be fine. He's the same age as me. He's strong. He's going to, he's going to push through it. He's going to do chemo and be fine. And then just being, completely blindsided by the fact that, holy shit, he was dying and he knew it, and he still was positive and encouraging people to be happy and trying to spread joy. I feel like that really, I guess, inspired me and made me, realize that I need to be appreciative of, the people and the things I care most about around me, my family and my friends and everything, until I end up dead. And so telling that story through this song, it was very much a story of, I some of the lyrics being like, I saw me when I looked at you, and I look in the mirror to make sure I'm still here. Because I really did. And it was like this, like kind of almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? This vulnerable moment of like realizing that you aren't invincible and that
you're mortal.
You're not mortality. This moment of, oh my God. And then obviously the way I kind of handling those emotions and realizing that he would want you to be positive. He would want you to live your life and to the fullest and not harp around the fact of the things that you wish you had said or the things that you wish you had done or and so being able to kind of take those like very conversational things that I just said, even in this conversation. And a lot of those are lyrics. And those are things that I kind of put into the song and the meaning behind it and making it a very like happy, upbeat song that is sad because it's about.
That's beautiful, man.
Very meaningful.
That's really beautiful. And I love that you did a fundraiser connected to the music video.
That's to the Sarcoma Foundation, which is a foundation that helps fight against bone cancer, which is the cancer that he had. You never know how long you have left.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful, man. I love that. That's a great story. I'm curious as you grow with music. That music video also has you without the mask on in there. Like, is the thought as you continue to grow? Like, are you very comfortable with continuing to grow fame? And are you comfortable continuing to grow that as Clay or as Dream? What does that feel like for you? Because you did take down some of your IRL content, and I think the world probably is wondering. Like, I would assume the biggest question that the world is wondering is like, do you regret the face reveal now that you're putting the mask back on? And as you grow, like music has the opportunity to blow you up even further.
Yeah, I definitely don't regret the face reveal. I think to me, it's like in order to live my life, I feel like I had to do the face reveal, and I was in this constant state of like paranoia, and like my life is way better now that I'm able to like actually live my life and do what I want, and so I don't regret the face reveal whatsoever. But obviously, I think that if given the fact that like let's say I had this mask and we could go back, like I would maybe do things slightly differently. But it's also hard to say that because it could create a chain of events where things go differently after that with like almost everything. And so I'm pretty comfortable. And I think with music, it's like, I want to tell these stories. And in my mind, it's like, yeah, okay. If it involves me, being more famous in order to impact as many people as I possibly can while I'm here on earth and living my life, then please, I want everyone that possibly can to hear my stories and to be impacted by them, whatever emotion they feel. I want them to feel something. And I feel like that's, if that comes at the price of more people, let's say being slightly more annoying, going into Walmart or something, then it's like, okay.
I can imagine that's really annoying, right? Like not like annoying, but like you have to think about it. It's not like you can go to a coffee shop, right?
It's annoying. It's annoying in the way that like, I'll get up and be like, I want to go to 7-Eleven to get like a drink. And then I'll be like, I have to get like actually dressed. I can't just go out and like,
and do you have to have security with you too?
No. I almost never do. I mean, I obviously I have security if I'm going to like a big event.
Yeah, VidCon or something like that. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I get recognized a lot when I walk around, like just in general in public. But I've never had anything like bad or weird or anything with people in public. People are always respectful and stuff so far.
What about being swatted? Have you ever been swatted?
Yeah. So I have been swatted before.
Interesting.
And and like members of my family have been swatted. And most of my friends have been swatted.
Sucks.
And it's definitely not a fun experience.
That's such a terrible part of internet fame.
It's one that most people just don't even, I feel like a lot of people probably even watching this don't even understand like what that is. Or
let's explain.
They'll hear that and be like, what is swatted?
Yeah.
Like being swatted is when somebody, it's called swatted because of the SWAT team. So someone will call into the police like a fake police threat at a certain address or a certain place where you are and be like, at this address, I'm holding a hostage right now and I'm going to shoot them in 10 minutes or whatever it is. I have a bomb. And so
while the streamer is live.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to while the streamer is live. Like I've been swatted when I'm not live and just.
Dude, that's so dangerous. I mean, people have died, right?
Yeah, people have died. Yeah. Pets have been killed. I mean, obviously it's not comparable, but it's horrible.
It's horrible, man.
It's something that shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't
be
the
case. Like as an example,
yeah.
I said it in my facial video, but I got like a text from, I got a call and it was from an unknown number. And then I got a text and it said like, hey, this is the FBI. We need to talk to you. And I was like, FBI, very funny. Yeah. Then I was like, this is a new number. I only got this a couple months ago. Like, I don't know who has this. How is somebody like calling me? So I called my local police department. I was like, hey, I got a text from the FBI and they're like, no, it's not the FBI. And I was like, well, can you make sure? Cause I have a reason why it could be the FBI. And they're like, no, you're good. It's not the FBI. And I was like, well, can I like talk to someone like higher that way? Just to like make 100% sure. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll check with like the sergeant or whatever. And they're like, 1 second. Oh, actually the sergeant's en route somewhere right now. Wait, the sergeant's en route to your house. Wait, maybe it is the FBI. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Hung up and I called them and they're like, yeah, this is the FBI. You have like a threat on your life right now. We don't think that we're going to have to take you into like protection yet, but be on standby. Like in case we do, if you want us to, we can. We think it's just internet trolls and stuff. But it could be because people put it out with intent. And it was someone on their, like one of their watch lists or something. And they were like, they put it out.
God, dude.
And so my reaction to that was very different than my mom's reaction to that.
Yeah, of course.
My reaction was, of course, this is stupid. I was like, nah, it's fine. I don't want to go into protection right now. This is, it probably is just someone, being an a-hole or, whatever. My mom's reaction was like, oh my God, that's so scary. This is horrible. This is crazy. Do you want to come to our, whatever. And so I think that those are kind of two different reactions where mine is a very like, it's more like,
it's a strange outcome of like getting better at the craft of being a storyteller and a creative person on the internet comes with this other thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like the outcome of that is fame, potential danger like that. It's just interesting this is such a terrible way to look at things. And I mentioned this in my facial video. One of the things I mentioned, I feel like and probably most YouTubers and most people in my position, anyone with like fame has kind of come to just accept the fact that that's a part of it, where it's like, it's almost like it doesn't bother me as much as you would think it would, because of the fact that you're like, yeah, well, you got swatted again or whatever. Like, whereas with someone else, it'd be like the end of their life if this thing happened, because it's this crazy thing that's crazy though. It comes with the territory when it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Yeah, that shouldn't come with the territory, man. That's wild.
That can be a byproduct of just wanting to do good work that you think is valuable and interesting to people.
Yeah. That's crazy. So is any of that why you deleted some of the other IRL content, like the face reveal videos not there?
Oh, no.
Antarctica vlog?
Oh, no, not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
I think that to me, it was like, again, when I was going back to the mask, it's like, I wanted a reason really to bring back this this thing that I thought was so important to me as Dream. And I think that, again, it created a massive splash and that it was everywhere. It was, there's probably over 1 billion views on like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and about people being like Dream deleted, whatever. And I remember sitting there and I was like, do I want to? And I privated everything. So everything's not deleted except for on the platforms where you can't and you have to delete. Yeah. I'm like, do I delete this? Like the face reveal tweet and it had like 1 million likes or something. And I was like, kind of got to if you're doing it. I was like, all right, I'm going all the way. And I deleted it. So,
man.
They're still there for memory's sake and stuff. And, who knows, way down the line or something. But for now, it's like, I just really wanted to solidify, like, no, I'm being serious. I want this to be, I'm fine with being, Clay and Dream, but I want to know that when I'm Dream, I'm Dream. Anyone can be Dream. Anyone can do whatever. But Clay, kind of man behind the mask, whatever. That's fine. But I want the separation of like, when Spider-Man's Spider-Man, he's Spider-Man. He's not Peter Parker, in that way, not really back to superheroes again, but it's the same thing. I wanted to bring that back. And so I think it will be, I'm going to be fine with, making appearances and not wearing a mask everywhere, eventually. But for now I was like, I really want to solidify this and make sure that it's known. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. This is, I can, sure. You said 40 million views or whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyone can be behind it. I can delete that, and it's still who I am doesn't change. Doesn't change the fact that I am who I am, and I've done what I've done. And so I think it's just a way to solidify it.
Interesting. Is like personal life complicated with this amount of fame and this amount of notoriety?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Like dating, friendships, all that.
Yes. Don't get me started. It is so impossible. I don't know. I got asked a question on a panel at VidCon yesterday, and it was along those lines. It was like, how do you separate your personal and your work life? And I was like, please, someone up here, one of you other creators, do you have an answer for that? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's so hard because when you're in the limelight, then anyone around you is in the limelight. When you're including your friends and people, you can criticize someone for something that their friend did and be like, oh, whatever. And so I think that I don't know. I don't know the answer. I always that's one of the questions I like to ask creators about and talk about and get into it. And like, how do you guys manage? Like, I remember talking to Anthony Padilla about it, and he gave some good advice on it as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big struggle, no matter what, for YouTubers, but also for just anybody who has any kind of fame.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm sure that's super complex. I think for you specifically, because a sense of mystery is almost a part of your brand, right? People want to know more about you.
Yeah, but I think it happens no matter what.
That's true.
There was people being like, well, if you want to stop the doxing and harassment, then just reveal your face. And it's like, well, obviously that doesn't stop it.
Yeah, that's not going to stop it.
It might amplify it because you're more interested or something, but it doesn't stop it. It happens to everyone. It just makes it more of there's slightly more of a reason because they're like, ooh, I want to find out what he looks like or whatever.
So at this point now, when you look out the next 2 to 3 years, do you know what success looks like for you, both personally and as Dream?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always had the view that success is defined by your brain, obviously. So it's there's no oh, you made money, therefore you're successful, or you had this job, therefore you're successful. But I think success to me is always just being happy with what I'm putting out while also contributing an upward positive thing to the world in terms of social media and actually talking about numbers and things like that. I feel like it's such a changing space that, one number is meaningful one day and meaningless the next day. One video is amazing one day and kind of, it's a crappy video the next day. And so it's really hard to look even, 6 months in the future and say oh, well, I think this is success if I'm doing this, or I have this many subscribers or, whatever. And so to me, I feel like it kind of has to be, maybe that's why I have a healthy relationship with numbers. I feel like I have to separate it and go, no matter what the numbers are, you can use that as a guide to try and you obviously want to increase numbers, so on and so forth, but you can just use that as a guide for doing what you love and doing what you can to improve the world, I guess. And so,
yeah. Talk us through this new mask.
Oh,
this seems really cool. That's all right, Dream.
There's a little bit of a blind spot. So first of all, we'll talk about that first.
That is a class.
So right in the middle there.
I'm surprised that didn't happen earlier, man. Yeah.
Do we want to break for a towel?
Yeah, it's actually not that big of a deal.
All right. So
thanks, Jesse. Yeah. It's all good.
Well, now this goes down in Colin and Samir show history.
Yeah.
There's never been a spill.
This is the first spill.
At least I have an excuse for it.
You have an excuse.
I feel a little worse if I didn't.
Okay.
So yeah, talk us
good.
through this mask.
Yeah, so this mask was made by obviously a professional mask company that, like we said earlier, made
Yeah,
the mask for a bunch of different places. It's actually it's pretty sick. I mean, I can see through it pretty well, except for in a couple places. I actually can't see through the mouth or the eyes. So this cup was kind of like right there on the bottom. I'm looking forward and I don't see the cup.
Can I try it on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
It's actually a laser like fit to my head and my skull.
Oh yeah, you have a big head.
I have a big head. I have a very big
I got
head,
a really small head.
Wow.
There's 2 dreams.
There's another
Look at
one,
that.
right?
Oh,
There's
yeah,
another mask.
it-
There is
honestly-
another mask.
You want to put it on?
You want to put
Yeah,
it on?
I'm interested.
Yeah,
Yeah,
put it
of
on.
course. Where
Yeah.
is it?
It's right behind us, over there in that back. This is much more comfortable and easier to see than I anticipated.
And I would imagine it's even more comfortable for me because it is fitted to my skull.
Yeah.
And so like the pads go right up against my face and it's right, everything fits really perfectly.
There's something to it too that you almost feel like a sense of safety in it. I don't know if you feel that way, but right now I feel like
No, I agree. I think
Yeah.
it is really cool. Like one thing that I've noticed is like, this is kind of funny, but also kind of bad. Like, there you go, 3 dreams.
Yeah.
3 dreams in the podcast.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm doing a podcast with myself now.
Yeah.
You can like look anywhere. So if you, like you're looking,
Dude,
it looks like you're looking at me.
yeah.
You can like look, I'm looking at the monitor right now, like way over there. Even though I'm not even looking.
I'm
that's
looking at the
cool.
monitor too.
So I've
looking
noticed
at
that in
Samir.
public sometimes, like if I see somebody
crazy.
and I'm like, usually if I glance, I'm like, what is that guy wearing? I might like look like, oh God, I don't want to stare.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can just like stare and be like, what is that guy wearing? Whatever. It's
Wow,
just
Part of
funny.
your superpower.
It feels like you can see more of the world. Like you see the world and the world doesn't necessarily isn't able to like see
Which
you
is so
in a
cool
way.
how that even works.
Yeah.
I don't even understand it. That's why I was saying with the whole science thing. How does that work? How can I see? And you
I
can't?
definitely can't tell how close I am to the mic right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's some blind spots. I see it. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
There's definitely like kind of middle here it can get, and also it depends on like the lighting. Some lighting's better and worse, and it also depends on like if I'm sweating a lot or something, like it'll like clog up the pores in it, and so it makes it even like harder to see.
Yeah.
I'm having like a lot of stuff like
is cool.
It's still not even done. Like I'm having a lot of like attachments made for it. Obviously, like I already had like I didn't bring it, but I have a straw attachment.
Yeah.
that like
So you can
attaches
drink.
on.
That's funny.
I can drink. I want like an umbrella one, a mic one, and a bunch of other stuff. And also, like even with the hood, it's like these are magnets, and so it's magnetized to it, so I can like shake my head and not have the hood like come off. Which is I think pretty cool.
This is awesome.
Maybe
man.
one day it'll be like when they release a new iPhone. And it's
There's the
like,
new Dream Mask.
Dropping in
Dream
Dream
Mask
Mask.
3.0.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
funny. So do you envision yourself, by the way, like going on tour? Like I'm putting this back on. This is more comfortable. Like, can we see you on tour in the next year or two?
I think that you should wait and see. And find out.
Dream.
Wow.
How dare you? How dare you leave us on a cliffhanger like that? Well, if you do go on tour and you stop here, we'd love to come.
You're welcome.
Genuine fans of your music.
yeah, we were playing it loud today.
Yeah. This conversation for me.
I can't wait for you to hear my new stuff.
Dude, I can't wait. This conversation for me has been like so revealing of like who you are, like who you actually are. I've had so many questions. And again, I think you've been like, you know, a mysterious part of YouTube for me. But this has been an awesome conversation, man.
Yeah,
like I really
appreciate you
appreciate
coming
you.
by.
It's been awesome for me as well. I feel like it's nice to have a chance to just kind of sit here and under almost no constraints, just be like, hey, let's just talk.
Yeah, I appreciate you being so vulnerable too, and like just being open and answering all of our questions. Like it's awesome, man.
Well, thanks for allowing me to make me feel comfortable too.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Cool.